Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GinJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thank you so much for tuning in here. Wednesday, May 21st. So Trevor Lawrence hasn't been really in the spotlight a ton this offseason. He is coming off of a shoulder surgery. He is throwing the football now, though. Saw at OTAs he was out there throwing the football, no problem. And so he's going to be good to go, obviously, for the season. But wasn't thrown for about 3.5 months, something to keep in mind. He hasn't been the topic of a ton of conversations. You had the Steelers kind of creep up, and there was scuttlebutt about they were trying to potentially trade for him. The Jaguars shut that down immediately, said they hadn't even heard from the Steelers, and even if they did, obviously Trevor Lawrence is their franchise quarterback. That's why Liam Cohen's here. It's a big reason why James Gladstone's here as well, because they have a lot of faith in Trevor Lawrence. But want to take a look at PFF had some quarterback rankings that dropped today or yesterday, sometime recently this week. And this was put together by John Costco, not sure how to say his name. But this is the PFF tiered quarterback rankings, and wanted to take a look at what they had to say about Trevor Lawrence heading into 2025 and reevaluate and recontextualize kind of the way I look at Trevor Lawrence. Just go back and refresh my brain about how he plays the game of football and what he's done over the last few years in Jacksonville. But he comes in at 16 on the PFF quarterback rankings. And this is a tier called Tier 3B, solid starters, but they need more help. The blurb here says, Trevor Lawrence might be the biggest wild card in this tier. The talent is undeniable, but he's yet to show consistent high-level play needed to elevate himself and the Jaguars into the NFL's elite. His 79.7 overall grade in 2023 was a career high, and he'll now have Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter as his top targets, with Liam Cohen taking over as offensive coordinator. I do think context is important. Liam Cohen is not the offensive coordinator. He's the head coach, right? He also happens to be the play caller. Grant Udinski, who is going to be critical in this thing moving forward, is the offensive coordinator. I understand why you would say that about Liam, but let's get things a little accurate here. Grant Udinski is the offensive coordinator. Liam Cohen is the play calling offensive head coach, right? So Trevor Lawrence at 16. That's not slamming him, saying this guy doesn't belong in the NFL, doesn't belong to be starting. This tier says solid starters, but they may need more help. The tier above, which is tier 3A, which is Jared Goff, Geno Smith, Brock Purdy, says solid starters who have flashed high-end play. And again, Trevor Lawrence's tier, solid starters, but they need more help. Has Trevor Lawrence not flashed a lot of high-end play over his career? That was my first question mark when I'm reading those two tiers. That's a lot of what you've gotten from Trevor Lawrence. And I went back and looked back over some of these games, and I can remember every one of these games over the last 2022, 2023, 2024, 3 seasons pretty vividly with Trevor and how these games kind of went. And so I just went back and looked from 2022 to 2024, how many games of winning football was Trevor Lawrence playing each year, and then how many games of elevated football where kind of everyone around him is getting lifted thanks to Trevor Lawrence's play. So in 2022, I thought in 13 of those 19 games that they played, there was winning football from the quarterback position, especially there was some games early on where he played really, really good football. In 2022, when you look at what he did against the Chargers and the Colts in weeks 2 and 3, and then week 6 he dominated against the Colts again, and then he went on that heater kind of starting in week 9, and every single game pretty much the rest of the year was very good for Trevor Lawrence overall. So in 2022, I had him at 13 of 19 games of winning football, 7 games of absolutely outstanding football, And I thought that was kind of the year where that back stretch, that back half, where folks started to really realize how good Trevor Lawrence could be, both locally and nationally. And he did that with not the very best group around him. We'll say that, certainly. 2023, jumping into that year, another season in which I thought Trevor Lawrence, for the most part, played very good football. 11 of the 16 games, in my estimation, he played winning football. 9 of those 11 games where he played winning football were also outstanding. You got to remember, through week 13, the Jaguars were in first place in the AFC, or right there, and Trevor Lawrence was playing amazing football. He absolutely was. And then there was a couple games at the back end of the year where he really did struggle, but a lot of that had to do with the offensive line play, the injuries he was dealing with, etc. But overall, in 2023, Trevor Lawrence played pretty magnificently. I have no issues saying that. And you can look at the total interceptions and be like, well, he wasn't playing very good football. What was it? 7 of his 14 interceptions came in the last 4 games. Again, when you had a ton of injuries, you had Trevor Lawrence playing through injury, you had offensive line issues. 3 of them came against the Browns, where a combination of Ezra Cleveland and Blake Hance were trying to block Myles Garrett. So, yeah, there's that, right? I think Trevor Lawrence overall, outside of the injury at the end of the year, had a very, very good 2023 season. And then in 2024, I had 5 of 10 games of winning football. One of those games is technically an incomplete because of what happened against Houston with the Azeez Al-Shaair just debacle. So really 5 out of 9. And then 4 of those 5 games I thought were outstanding football this past year from Trevor Lawrence. Against Miami, I thought he played very good, but I had outstanding games against Indy, Chicago, New England, and Miami in week 1. His numbers weren't prolific in week 1, but he was dealing if you go back and watch that game. He absolutely was. They took the ball out of his hands in the fourth quarter. I have no idea why they did that. It was pretty bizarre to see. And you go look through all these games, you consistently see drops. It's just a very difficult situation. Consistently see pretty poor offensive line play, poor defense, all the above when it comes to Trevor Lawrence. So 65% of his games over the last 3 years, and I really don't even think about his rookie year anymore. Try to put that out of your mind with the Urban Meyer, another debacle, right? 65% of the games over the last 3 years that he's played in, he's produced like a winning quarterback. Good numbers across the board in those games, impressive throws, way, 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 way more good than bad in those games. And so he's put his team in position to win 65% of the games that they have played in over the last 3 years. And he also has those games that we talked about, the outstanding, elevating everyone around him games, quite frequently, where the way he plays and produces, he elevates everyone around him, consistently in those games. He did this, again, while never having a consistent running game, having receivers that led the league in drops during that time span, an offense that basically put it all on him to find any success, and a mostly very poor defense. To me, I have no idea how you could put Trevor Lawrence at 16 in a tier that, when you look at the numbers and contextualize everything, the tier just doesn't make sense. Solid starters, but they need more help. Yeah, he has needed more help. But to say he hasn't very regularly flashed high-end play to at least be in tier 3A makes zero sense to me. And I'm pretty bullish on him. It's been so bad around him, I don't think it is anymore. I still have some questions about the interior of the offensive line in these huge games, if there are any huge games for the Jaguars down the stretch in 2025. I think that could be a weak point potentially. But I think from a pass protection standpoint, the tackles are going to be excellent. I think that the run schemes will be improved. I think the run game overall will be improved. You now have Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter, the two most talented receivers you've ever played with. You've got Brenton Strange. You've got Liam Cohen, who the way he coaches up offense, it takes a lot off the quarterback's plate, and gives the quarterback answers. Makes it's not a simple offense by any stretch. Like, there's a lot that goes into it, but once you understand it, it really helps you find the answers on every single play. And so I think that's going to be huge. You also have like the illusion of complexity, where once you understand everything that goes into this offense as a player, as a quarterback, you're able to present a picture that you can very easily digest, that defenses struggle with, because a lot of the same things can look different. Different things can look the same. So there's a lot of that goes into this new Jaguars offense with Liam Cohen. And again, just being able to throw the football to Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr., De'Ami Brown, all the speed you have in the backfield with Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, Bashal Tutin, the ability to get into some really heavy personnel packages with all the tight ends, big tight ends that they have in Hunter Long, Johnny Munt, Quentin Morris, Brenton Strange, not a small guy either. So there's going to be a lot I think that this offense can do to help Trevor Lawrence. I'm willing to put my stamp on it. I really don't think there are 10 better quarterbacks in this league, and that's something that, if I'm wrong and it doesn't go well this year due to anything other than like injury, I'll eat crow about it a little bit, but I'm bullish on Liam Cohen. I'm bullish on Trevor Lawrence. I think right now he's in the 7 to 8 range in the league, and I know a lot of folks will think I'm just being biased, but that's how I evaluate it. I would have obviously Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar, Josh Allen. I almost said Josh Hines Allen there. Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. I think it's fair. You can put Jaden Daniels up there ahead of him. He had an unbelievable year. Everybody else, I think it's a fair conversation. And realistically, I think if you had to start a franchise around a quarterback, if you had to go play a game with a quarterback tomorrow, talent evaluators, roster builders across the league right now would agree he would not fall out of the top 10 at the quarterback position. So I think the one thing here is, again, health. He's got to be able to stay healthy here this year. And if he can do that, I think it's going to be a big season for the Jacksonville Jaguars offense. I really like the way they have kind of moved this offseason. Again, the one thing I think that they could use a lot more talent is interior offensive line. But I do think they got floor raisers. I think they got guys that kind of will kick some butt and be physical and be good enough most weeks on the interior to help Trevor Lawrence and this offense win football games. And then a lot of it, the defense has got to play better too. I mean, both sides of the ball have got to play better, and that's going to go on Anthony Campanile and the defensive staff and all those talented defenders that the Jaguars do have on that side of the ball. But yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence not being a top 10 quarterback will look silly down the road. I definitely think, just from this tier-based rankings, I don't understand how he would be 3B and not 3A. And I kind of feel that way about several of the guys that are in the 3B category. Jordan Love, solid starters, but they need more help, or solid starters who have flashed high-end play. Has Jordan Love not flashed a lot of high-end play? Has Baker Mayfield not flashed a lot of high-end play? Has CJ Stroud not flashed a lot of high-end play? Yeah, so there's some silliness to me, but that's how I look at it. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. I'll link this PFF article too in the description so y'all can kind of take a look at it. I think that these rankings are honestly just pretty silly. Really appreciate y'all being here. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Have a good one.